So unfortunately, my audio cut out from my video, and so I will have to be recording this separately, and hopefully I can keep up with the video. So let's begin. So what I developed for here, for this project, this final project, was essentially an improvement on project 3, where we made the nano language model, and I decided to make a Gollum Chatbot, which would both understand context better and have a much more unique way of speaking that would be nothing like regular text that you would see. If you don't know, Gollum is a character from Lord of the Rings, and he has a very, very peculiar way of talking, which you'll see at the end of this video. And so originally I was planning to use data from the books, but then I ended up just going with movie scripts since they were easier to obtain, as well as some chat GPT conversation material. And so that was just merged together into one data set. And so, yes, I should also mention that I used a pre-trained model, which was Microsoft's Diallo GPT, and that's based on GPT-2, or it is a GPT-2 model. And this was trained on a lot of Reddit conversations, and so it's very good at casual dialogue, which would be perfect for this chatbot. So first we have imports, very basic stuff, a lot of PyTorch, a lot of NumPy, pandas, all things that are fairly usable, as well as some stuff that I probably should have deleted. I'm recognizing now. That's all right. I'm just waiting for the video. Maybe it'll go on. So yes, all those imports, and then we have the initial configurations. So this involves essentially, setting up all the things that my model going to use later on. So, things like learning rate, weight decay, epsilon, training batch size, which I played around with quite a bit. So that is all set up in that part that I just highlighted over there in these arguments, in the arguments class. And so that's useful later on, essentially. And so after we set up all of this, we have data preparation. So with data preparation, essentially we begin by just importing and setting up the data from the scripts. And what this involves is having Gollum's responses or lines in one box of a row or in one index of a row. Where's this slipping from my mind right now? And then alongside it in that row is going to be the 7 previous responses to add context and for the model to learn off those previous responses or dialogues to learn how we got to Gollum's current conversation. And then we process data further to actually be able to use it during training for the model to look at it. So then, yeah, pretty much that's how we go about it. There's a function collate, which handles padding, makes sure everything is uniform to feed into the model. I had some issues with padding. We'll get into that later. And you see that over here in the training function, which I guess I skipped a hit ahead. So yes, the collate function and padding, I had some issues with training. Otherwise, even though it is lengthy text, it's much the same as before, as usual. It's training. You're just setting a bunch of things up. Let's say I'm just trying to skip past this as quickly as possible. And there I highlight and talk about the collate. Once again, sorry, my audio is not in sync with my video anymore. The training loop also calculates the total number of steps based on batch size and number of epochs. So that's pretty normal. And then it'll obviously iterate through each epoch and feed data to the model. Next up, we have evaluation, which evaluates our model's performance on unseen data, calculating metrics like loss and perplexity, which is quite important and which I'll highlight in the video shortly. And these help to understand how well the model predicts or generates text. And then it begins by preparing the evaluation data set, ensuring the directory for output exists, and then setting up data loader to efficiently load the data in batches. Obviously, models also switch to evaluation mode, which is fairly standard stuff. Won't go into too much more detail. Main code, once again, runs the training, runs evaluation, initializes the model, and the tokenizer, and all that. So fundamental to running this. And then we actually run the code itself with this main value over here, which uses the train set and the value set, which were made during data pre-processing. Below that, we see the results of training. All those red lines over there, essentially, those aren't errors. Those were just from training before, and the place of red lines before we had progress bars. But since I closed VS Code in the meantime and opened it back up before this video, you can't no longer see those training bars. Same thing for evaluation, and then that's my best perplexity score. I don't know if I said, but the best score is 1. The lower the better. I got 5.8, which isn't too great, but it's the best one I got, and it kept going down and down. And here we have the actual chat code. So this is where, once again, initialize the model, and then when I run the code, I'll have a bar at the top that where you can print in your input, what you wanted to say to the chatbot. There's also a function that pretty much checks to make sure that the length of what you're inputting can still be useful. And so if it's too long, then it'll take away from the chat history and still allow you to keep talking. And then those are just some more parameters that I can play with. And then at the bottom, we have some previous conversation I had with Gollum. So I'll go highlight that. So this was the first response to me saying hello Gollum. As you can see, it's a bit off context. You could perhaps see that it's somewhat related to saying, oh, I've been searching for you, replying to hello Gollum, kind of. The next question I asked him was, what's your favorite meal? And Gollum said, a nice fish, yes, so on and so forth. So that is now on context. Gets a little bit off at the end, but overall, good answer. So you can see that it works. The foundations are there. Still has to be improved a little bit. Both the data set and the padding issue I'm having affect that. And then I lastly asked it, what do you think of the sun? In the books and in movies, golems hate the sun, and here it says it burns us, yes, but the shadows makes us happy, yes. So that's the way he talks, and so it mimics that really well. It gets his answers done well, and now I try to run it a little bit. And so first I asked it, or I told it once again, hello Golem, which we'll see in a second. You see me typing at the top. So hello Golem, and then I put that in. We have the issue with the padding once again. It's all right. And then Gollum goes on, the last hobbit, yes. Now, if only I had a master's in drawing, I wouldn't have to destroy Precious. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Clearly a bit off topic, but it talks like him. So that's a plus in a sense. Next I ask him, do you like reading? General question. And then Gollum says, sneaks, we likes it. And then his hissing, but we need to riddle ourselves, yes. He really likes riddles, I guess relates it to books somehow. So there's some context here. Talks like him once again. So it's a good starting point, essentially. And then the last thing I asked it was, what do you do for fun? Let's see what he says. Golem talks to Precious. Smeagol's, yes, talks his Precious, sakes with fishes. I'm not sure what the last part is, but overall the answer is good. He talks to Precious for fun, and he talks like himself. There's some issues with some punctuation marks and some apostrophes, all that are out of place, and I don't know what sakes is. But otherwise, it seems to be a good foundation point. There's context. He's talking like himself, and then I just type and quit that. So thank you so much for watching. This was my project, and it's a good foundation.